It's your girl, Constance Carter. How you doing? I know, 7:26. I don't normally get on at this time, but I just got off a training with my agents and still had the laptop up, and I was like, let's just go live. Maybe somebody might be on tonight, and let's talk about credit. Maybe somebody has some credit questions. I haven't done it live on credit in at least a year. So I wanted to know if you guys have any questions about credit. I don't know if you know, but I am the author of Keeping Score, What You Need to Know to Make Your Credit Score Grow, bestseller. And wanted to know if you have some questions. So first, I guess let me just tell you some things about some credit, and then maybe we can have a conversation. So if you have a question while I'm talking, just post it in the comments box, and we just have a conversation about credit. What do you need to know about your credit? So let's talk about it. What is the quickest way that you can ruin your credit? What's the quickest way your credit can go up? What's the quickest way your credit can go down? Does anybody know the answer to that question? What's the quickest way? Um, Late payments. Late payments, okay, that's a given, right? Late payments are 35% of your credit picture. 35%. So if you have a pie, 35% of that pie will be late payments. So you being late on a car, you being late on a credit card, that's 35% of your credit. I was looking at a post on a girlfriend's page the other day, and she shared something that someone said, and it said something about the way you can trick the bureaus is if you pay like for a credit card, you pay on one day and then you pay again another day. You can trick the bureaus in increasing your credit score up way higher. So that doesn't make any sense. And I did post a comment on that. It doesn't make makes absolute no sense. Basically, the way you can trick the bureaus is by paying your credit card down before the due date. That's a way to trick the bureaus. It's not really a trick. So that your credit cards only report to the credit reporting agencies one time a month, typically. And so you can use your credit cards all during the month. You can use all during the month, but as long as you pay it before the due date, and you can call the credit card company to say, hey, what day do you report to the bureaus? They can report on the 14th, whatever day of the month. Just make sure that you pay before the day they report, and then when they go to report, they're going to report your balance. And if your balance is low, it's going to boost your credit score up. Okay, so credit card balance. So I just told you the way to really quickly make your credit score drop is a late payment. That's 35% of your credit pie. But do you know what 30% of your credit pie is? It's credit card balances. It's the quickest way that you can increase your score, and it's the quickest way that you can drain your credit score. So a lot of times I look at credit reports, I look at thousands, I'll say thousands. I've looked at thousands and thousands of credit reports. And when I look at credit reports, the first thing when I see the score, first thing I look at is the score. What's the score? Is it 580, 620, 640, whatever? The first thing I'll look at is how do I get this person a higher score? First thing I look at is what is their credit card balance? First thing I look at, what is their credit card balance? Because if their credit cards are over 50%, at the limit, over the limit, chances are you're draining your credit score. That is dropping. You can lose 50, 60, 70, 80 points. Draining your credit score if your balances are either almost at the limit or over the limit. At the limit, almost at the limit, or over the limit, you are draining your credit score. So the way to quickly, so a lot of times when you have those late payments, there's nothing really you can do about late payments. I mean, you could ask for a courtesy late removal. Just did that last week. Called a homegirl, said, hey, homegirl, rates are really low. You ready to refi? She's like, yeah, girl. So I did a soft credit pool. I can do a soft credit pool for you. It's a credit pool that does not have an inquiry, right? So there's no inquiry on your credit score. Go to qualify with cfs.com. Let me put that in there. Qualify with cfs.com. I get you a soft credit pool. So I said, hey, you want to take advantage of lower things? So I did the soft pool, and her credit score had dropped significantly. Well, it was lower than I had expected it to be. I know this girl. I know she's fiscally good. She takes good care of her money. And I was like, hey, your credit score is only 620. But I'm looking at your credit profile and I'm seeing everything is perfect except you just got a late payment on, I think it was a timeshare, but you just paid the timeshare off. What's going on? What's good? And she said, oh, yeah. She goes, my bad, my mistake. I was late on it, but I ended up paying it right off. I said, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to call them up and I want you to ask for a courtesy late removal. I want you to ask for a courtesy late removal. I said, I don't care if you got to tell them I was in the hospital when this happened. You can tell them I'm trying to buy a house. This is a good one. I'm trying to buy a house, and this is really affecting my ability to purchase a home. Whatever you need to do, ask them for a courtesy late removal and say, listen, I just paid it off in full. Can you please remove the late? And she called me back in like 3 minutes. I was like, done. And I was like, well, what did you say? And she said, I just told them I was trying to buy a house. And I said, I paid it off. And so I told them to do me a solid. Perfect. She said, they're going to do it. They're sending me a letter in the mail and it's going to be removed. So ideally, this person who has a 620 credit score, and the reason why it's so low, again, her score should be somewhere like in the high sevens based upon her credit profile. But the reason why it's so low is because she just had a late payment in September, last month. And so when you have those recent late payments, it hits your credit score hard. That just happened to me. So my credit score is over 800, right? And I just, if you've seen a few months ago, I just got a new car. So I have all my car payments set up where I'm on automatic payment. And it ended up going to the old account. The payment ended up going to the old account. And so they gave me a late payment on my my September payment. The credit guru, okay? The credit obsessed person. I get a late payment on my car that's not even my fault. I'm devastated. But not only am I devastated, my score drops 130 points. So I go from 800, 810 to like 680, 690 credit score. Like that. So I write them and they're like, nope, we're not removing it. So you know what I did? So I have a Lincoln. Lincoln is also owned by Ford. Guess who I sent the letter to? Henry Ford's granddaughter, who is the VP right now. You gonna take this late off my credit report. I ain't playing with these people. Y'all gonna take it off. I said everybody's on notice. So that's getting ready to be removed. It hasn't been removed yet. However, it will be removed. I'm fighting that to the death. And sometimes you have to do that. But even still, so in September, was it September or was it August? But it dropped my score 130 points. And then the further you move away from the late payment, the more your credit score goes up. So within a month, my credit score went back up maybe 20, 30 points. So then so every month that you get further from the late payment, your score will end up going up. But that first initial, if it's recent, it's going to hit you the hardest. And the higher your credit score is, the harder it's going to affect your credit score. So if you have a high score, like me, I was over 800, a late payment affected me 130 points. If I was at a 620 credit score, the late payment may have affected me only 30, 40 points. So the higher the credit score, the harder your credit gets hit when something happens to it. So that's very important. So if you have a credit card, which is 30%, you're overbalanced, and you're late 35%, how bad do you think that's going to affect your credit score? It's going to be absolutely horrific. So always make sure that your credit card balances. Now, you might have to use them in between. And if you can, just pay them before the due dates. Always try to leave you may want to leave a little bit of a balance on there, because paying to zero actually may end up dropping your score. So we use different simulators to tell what actually is going to happen when you do certain things, and paying to zero often will drop your score, okay? However, for me, I normally keep my credit cards at a zero balance a lot of times, because if I'm not trying to stimulate my score to buy anything. But if you're trying to buy property, if you're trying to stimulate your credit score, keeping a small balance, buy gas, pay it down, pay it monthly. So buy, just something very small that stimulates your score. So the stimulation of your credit cards actually help your score. Having a card that's stagnant, that's never ever used, it can drop your score, and they can close the credit card. And then having a closed credit card could actually hurt your score big time too. So you never want to have a credit card company, or you never close a credit card. Never, ever, 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 ever. If you can avoid closing your credit card, don't do it. Because 15% of your credit score, 15%, write this down, 15% of your credit score is length of credit history. So the people with the 800 credit scores are typically the people who have the lengthy credit history. What's lengthy? People who have 5, 10, 20-year credit history. So when you like say you close, you got a credit card. I had a client who closed a credit card that they had for a very long time because they were like, the interest was high and I wasn't really using it, Constance. And I'm like, no. And when they closed it, they dropped their score about 50 points. They were well over 800, dropped their score about 50, 60 points because they closed the credit card and they lost that link. They lost that history. So even if you have a credit card, say the rate's high, guess what you can do? Call them up, ask them to reduce the interest rate. And a lot of times they will. The average interest rate of a credit card is 24.99%. Call these credit card companies up and say, hey, can you please reduce my interest rate? And a lot of times they will. So doing a courtesy late removal on your on anything that's late, like I said, Henry Ford, I don't know the lady's name, I forget the lady's name, but she got a letter from me, and everybody else from Ford Motor Company has gotten a letter because they're going to get this thing removed. However, my credit score has already, because it's been, I think, maybe 2 months now, my credit score has already gone up significantly. But just having that one ding on my credit, it just kills my life. And I'm just being transparent. My stuff is not perfect, but I work very hard to keep my stuff right. And then to have a mistake like that, I pay, again, because I had 2 different accounts. One was closed, and I go online to pay, and they applied it to the wrong account, and then I get a late payment as a result. That is like huge blow. But do whatever you can. You don't need to hire a credit repair company to do this for you. These are things that you can do yourself. A lot of these credit repair companies, there's a lot of people too that'll use these third-party credit repair companies, and they'll pay them, $97, $99, $150. I don't know how much you pay them a month, but all they're doing is sending out these static letters to the credit bureaus. This ain't mine. This ain't mine, whatever. This wasn't late. This ain't mine, whatever. And they're sending them to the bureaus, and they're just sending the same letters over and over again, hoping that it'll stick, hoping that they will actually remove it. And you can do this yourself. So why are you paying somebody $100 a month to send a letter to the bureau that you can send yourself? You do not need to pay anybody to do that. And another thing that these credit repair companies do is they do what I call, in my book, keeping score, what you need to know to make a credit score grow, see if I have any around here, is they do the spray and pray method. Spray and pray. What's the spray and pray? That means they just dispute anything, no matter what. And when you dispute everything on your credit report, you may be disputing something that you don't even need to dispute. You might be disputing something that's been old, that ain't been reporting currently in 3-4 years. And those items, those old collections that haven't been reporting in 3 or 4 years, they're not even really affecting your credit score. So what happens when they dispute them? Does anybody know what happens when they dispute them? I'm gonna look for questions. Anybody know what happens when they dispute old old collections? It wakes up the dead. Boom. It wakes up the dead. It wakes up the dead. And so that collection, that old collection that they wasn't even thinking about, that didn't even hurt your credit score, that old collection is now a current collection. And what happened? It became a current collection, and it dropped your credit score. You don't want to do that. So you want to make sure that you're not just disputing, doing spray and pray. You're not just disputing everything. You want to be very specific in the things that you dispute. But you have these credit repair companies that's just disputing everything on your credit. I had a client even a couple weeks ago. She's so cute. I love her. But she paid her credit card balance to 0, and then she disputed it. And I said, why did you dispute it? And she said, because I paid it and it still shows a balance. I said, what was disputing going to do? And she said, it was letting them know that I paid it off. I said, yeah, but they still have to report it. It may not have been the reporting day yet. So there's a dispute on her credit file, but the reporting day wasn't until, like, say, the 14th or the 16th of the month. But she wanted it off fast. She wanted them to hurry up and update. But these credit card companies, they have dates that they actually report to the credit bureaus. So just because you paid it off on Tuesday, it doesn't mean it's going to update with the credit bureaus on Wednesday. They have a certain time of month that they're going to report to the credit reporting agency. So that's very important. The other thing is paying old collections. Paying, Jocelyn, thank you. It wakes them up. Thank you. You paid attention. Hey, Annette. Good, Annette. Shout out to Annette. She said her and her husband are watching. Another thing about paying old collections. So just like I said, an old collection that hasn't reported in 2 years and you don't want to dispute them, likewise, you don't want to pay them. Because do you know what happens when you pay an old collection that hasn't reported in 2 years? Because really, that old collection that hasn't been reported in over 2 years, it's not really hurting your credit score that bad, right? It's not really affecting your credit score. Like, it's old. So what happens when you pay off an old collection? Oh, just pay off everything. Well, that old collection that hasn't reported in 2 years, you've just woken up the dead yet again. And by you waking up the dead, what happens is now that old collection just becomes that it wasn't reporting. Now it's reporting that it's paid, but it's still a paid collection. And a collection, whether it's paid or not, is a collection. A collection is a collection is a collection. That means that collection is now new on your credit file, and now it's hurt your credit score. So those are just a few things. And again, I just wanted to know if you have questions. I told you guys a whole lot, gave you a whole lot of credit tips, a whole lot of credit. And I see a lot of people are watching, but I wanted to give you some credit tips, but I also wanted to answer any credit questions that you had, because I haven't talked about credit in at least a year. I'm talking about all this other stuff, this life stuff, but I haven't really talked about credit. I do have a book. It's called Keeping Score. That is a bestseller. What you need to know to make your credit score grow. It has the nuts and bolts. It's an easy read. I wrote it so that just like I'm talking to you, I wrote it in the very same manner. A lot of people say, you know what, I'm going to get my teenagers to read this book because it's that easy where anybody can understand it. You can sit down and read it within an hour. I recommend getting Keeping Score to start off with. I also recommend, I have an online, well, I have a workbook as well. I wish I had something here. Let me see what I have. Oh, I do. I got some Keeping Score over here. I just tore something up though. Oh, no, I don't have Keeping Score over here. I got The Secret to Breaking the Broke Code, which is an international bestseller by Constance Carter. And this shows you how to get out of the broke mentality. And when I talk about the broke mentality, I'm not talking about being broke financially. I'm talking about being broke in brokenness mentally and how you can create your wealth by first changing your mindset and then start to do other things to create your wealth. But I can't find Keeping Score. It's not over here. I'm in my little retreat area in my bedroom, and I don't have anything over here. So Keeping Score, what you need to know to make your credit score grow, it's on Amazon. Like I always say, I'm giving you $1 million worth of game for just $9.99. I also have the workbook, Build Credit to Build Wealth, the blueprint for a wealthy credit score. And guess what? It's normally $45. Every time I go and speak, sell them out. They go quickly. And right now it's on Amazon for $19.95. $19.95 is normally $45. And that is a workbook. So now you have a workbook where you can do homework, where you can specifically look at your unique credit profile and gives you homework to do it. It's freaking amazing. That along with the Build Credit to Build Wealth program, which is an online training program, which is bomb. I've helped people get from, say, 500 credit score all the way to 800 on this program. And what they do is it's an online training program where you can just listen. You're just listening. It's like an Audible, but you're just listening. And they said that they've listened to it. They listen to it 30 minutes a day. And they said they listen to the program, 5 times, 30 minutes a day, and increase their score significantly. And I do all of this stuff for you. This does not make me rich at all, but I really just want to help people. And the reason why I did it is because in 2008, I filed bankruptcy. I had more month than money. And I really mismanaged my money. I was making a lot of money, but I ended up filing bankruptcy. And I ended up going down to a 379 credit score. 379 credit score. I haven't seen too many 379 credit scores. I was at an 800, went to a 379 when I filed bankruptcy. And I used that. So within a year, I was almost up to 700, but I used that as a fuel so that I could help others. And I really believe, and I'm not going to say that God put me in that position where I had 379 credit score. That was all on me, all on me. However, God blessed me to see that I can use that as my purpose to help others. And that's the only reason why I wrote the books. I sat down and I wrote them for people like you, for people like me who just need a boost, just need to get that extra knowledge. So that's available for you. Programs are available for you. So if you are interested, I only want to help you. And then the secret to breaking the broke code. Annette had a question. She said, oh, she got some good questions. Should you pay off, oh no, this is Jocelyn. Should you pay off dental bills and collections? That's a great question, Jocelyn. So dental bills, did you say dental? Dental bills, if they are considered, if they're showing up as a medical collection on your credit report, they are ranked a little bit differently. They're scored a little bit differently. They sometimes may affect your credit and sometimes they may not affect your credit. But the great thing about it is in 2017 or 2018, they changed the credit rules that if, say you have a medical bill and before, like if you didn't pay it within 30 days, they will send you to collection. Okay, so number one, you have at least 6 months to pay it before they'll send you to the collection. So they cannot send you to collections before the 6 months. Number two, once you pay them, they have to remove them. Okay, so it's not just like you're paying it and it's going to just stay a collection. It should be actually removed once you pay your medical bills. Okay. Annette, is that like an R9 code on the report to show the previous debt was paid off? I don't know. Is that like an R9 code to show? I'm not sure. I don't know what an R9 code is. So sorry. Diana says, do different collection types impact different? Boom. Yes, that's exactly what I just said. Different collections actually impact differently. So like I said, a medical is not going to be the same impact as a regular, another kind of collection. Also, all good debt are not created equally. So I'm glad you said that, because that brings me to another point. So like I said, your revolving debt weighs much differently than an installment debt. Does anybody know what an installment debt is? It might be a car, might be a mortgage, maybe a student loan. So sometimes people will be like, oh, I'll just pay my car off and I'll boost my credit score. Paying your car off, an installment debt is only 10% of your credit score. So paying off your installment debt is not going to really help your credit score. So for example, I had a husband and wife who the husband had a car and a couple of collections on his credit report, like one collection. The wife had a credit card and more collections, like three collections on her credit report. They had otherwise everything else was pretty much the same. Her credit score was higher than his. Why was her credit score higher than his? Because she had a credit card, he had a car payment. An installment debt does not weigh as heavily on your credit report as a revolving debt or a credit card debt. So when you go to pay off an installment debt, not really going to help you that much. But when you go to pay off a revolving debt, pew, that's how you get your credit score really to go up. So paying off a car, it'll help your debt to income ratio, but not necessarily your credit score. Okay, so that was a great question. And then Annette, I'm not sure, you said from a previous collection. I don't know what that question is. Okay, is the R9 to show the previous date paid off from a previous collection? I'm not sure what the question really is, so I'm sorry. So Lisa said, if you have collections on your credit report, can you still qualify for a home loan? Absolutely. So a collection does not deter you from being able to qualify for a home loan at all. It just depends on the breadth of the credit. Okay. So you could have 2 collections and nothing else and not get qualified for a home. You could have 6 collections, 2 credit cards, and get qualified for a home. Why? Because if you have collections and you have no good debt to offset the bad debt, then your score is going to be in the toilet. It's going to be in the gutter. But if you have good debt to offset the bad debt, so you say you have 2 credit cards and you have 6 collections, your score is probably going to be higher. Now, here's the caveat to that. If you're trying to qualify for a home loan, right, and you have collections, say you have, 6 collections, and they all equal to about $700. You good. Qualify for the home, no biggie. But if those 6 collections cumulatively add up to over $2,000, you can still qualify for the home. However, we now have to use all those collections and we have to add that against your debt to income ratio, which means you have $2,000 worth of collections. Now we got to say, okay, we got to use 10% of those $2,000 in collections. We got to add that to your monthly payment, which could affect how much you can qualify for. So $2,000, 10% of that, $200